You're watching Engine Behind the Power, and I'm now joined by none other than the Member of Parliament from Vita, that is Honorable Abdulswamad Shariff Nassir, who also is the chairperson of the Shariff Nassir Foundation. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for coming to our studios. All right, and I want us just to begin from the point of, the story that we have just seen in Parliament. What is happening? CORD appearing to be cracking the whip on members who appear, to be errant, so to speak. In your opinion, where do we draw the line between political party discipline and, of course, what others would consider, dictatorship within the party?
Well, actually, the law is very clear. And it's important that Kenyans realize how laws are made, how Kenyans are governed. For a law to be made, it passes through committee stages. And once it gets into the first committee stage, then it has to go to the House Business Committee for the House Business to be able to put it in the line of which are the bills that can be able to be brought for debate on the chambers. And then thereafter, we debate all these things, and laws are made that way. As an affiliation, as a CORD affiliation, we have a mandate to the people. And our mandate is very, very clear. We have our manifestos that we say that this is what Kenyans need. And we need people who can be able, who are going to drive these manifestos, who are going to drive the change that Kenyans desire in Parliament. And that can only be done through committee stages, that can only be done through the chambers. Now, if you're not going to be able to get strong people in committee stages, then the first stage of making laws becomes totally a problem. Because you've got people who are in the committee, your opinion as a party, your manifesto as a party is that this is the way that Kenyans should be able to go. This is not the way that Kenyans should be able to be led. And if we're not going to have strong people within committees, then definitely we're not going to have the laws that Kenyans desire. And as an affiliation, as CORD, so it should not, the media has always been perceiving this, that this is an issue of individuals. This is an issue of Kenyans. And what it is that Kenyans deserve. And if it means that 3 people will be asked to step aside so that others who can be able to drive the engine even further, then why not? It is not an issue about individuals at all. And I hear this word being used a lot, that they're being disciplined. Well, being disciplined in what sense? By being asked not to be in those particular committees?
Taking away the right to also be members of committees.
The standing orders are very, very clear. The standing orders of Parliament are very clear. It is the parties that nominate members. The framers of the Constitution, those who actually put up the standing orders in place when Kenyans knew that this is the kind of system of Parliament that Kenyans wanted, the framers of all this knew that this is how it should be. And once you're able to do that, then naturally we know that you're in this committee. This is the agenda that you have to be able to push forward. The Public Investment Committee, our job is to oversight. Public Accounts Committee, there's the Budget Committees. These are very strong committees. The House Business Committee, these are very, very strong and powerful committees.
There are those who would argue that, as a member of Parliament, you also have a duty, to the people who elected you, and you also have it's also up to you to make decisions on what you think, is best. Would you consider it also sort of like trying to make them not have a democratic right to speak what they want to?
As an affiliation, as a CORD party, whenever we have our parliamentary groups, it's very, very clear. When it comes to issues that you hold on moral grounds, then you are at liberty to vote. But then that is something totally different, if it is something that touches you on a religious level, if it is something that touches you, issues to do with abortion. If someone came up with something like that, then a member can be able to say, I cannot be able to support this. However, when it comes to how Kenyans are going to be governed, it doesn't matter. That's why we're called national leaders. And this is the reason why, as an affiliation, I repeat again, we have a clear set of a manifesto. This is what we intended when we never got into power in the last elections. If we did, this is what we wanted to do. And it is our obligation to the Kenyans. It is the rights of Kenyans for them to be able to realize these dreams.
Of course, next year we are going to the elections, 2017, and already there is talk, among members of parliament that they need to change the Political Parties Act to sort of allow, what we like to call the party hopping. I mean, what would be your opinion of that? Should we change the act to allow, members of parliament who want to move to other parties have the liberty?
Well, today the election laws actually came in for the first reading in Parliament. Parliamentarians will be at liberty to be able to go through it. There are many observations that have been able to come out. I mean, it's not even an issue of just, like I said, this is not about personalities, this is about Kenyans. There's so many issues that are there. What are the academic qualifications that a member of parliament should have? What are the academic qualifications that a county assembly member should have? So all this is a document that has already been brought into parliament. It has already gone through the first reading today, and we should be starting to debate it depending on the schedule of how it will be placed by the House Business Committee.
But in your opinion, I mean, what do you make of the proposals?
I think politicians are humans as any other person. And yes, there is that tendency that if I do not go through in this party, then I can be able to go through in another party. Majority of those who make that decision do not go through. A very, very few minority have been able to go through by their personal popularity on the ground. And it is something that we are going to be debating. However, Kenya to be able to forge ahead, Kenya to be able to really, really be a strong democracy, we need to have some form of limitations. Again, Kenya's democracy is very young. The citizens in general as well need to realize that when you belong to a certain affiliation, those are the principles. Are you changing your principles midway? Are you changing your principles closer to the elections? Is it a mandate that your electorate were able to give you, your constituents? Did they ask you to be able to change this? So if you ask me, probably an amendment to include that for me to be able to change my party, then I can be able to present to IBC a list of certain signed voters within my constituency to actually say that, yes, we are asking this person to change party, so that we change this notion that it is about a certain individual. Everything has to go back to the Kenyans.
I think the idea behind it mostly to try and discourage what we always like to call, political parties belonging to a certain region.
True.
Don't you think this will remain on those gains that we have made? If you are shifting parties, it will most likely be because of your region, supports this particular party as opposed to really the ideologies behind the party.
There's no doubt about that. Kenyan's politics is based on regions. However, slowly but gradually, we are getting to become a very cosmopolitan country. Most of the urban constituencies, mine included, you cannot say that I'm going to win by virtue of this tribal block or this tribal block. You win based on your capacities to be able to perform. And slowly and gradually, Kenyans are changing. There's so much intermixing of tribes, so much inter-tribal marriages going on. We will reach there. But until the day that we do, we need to put in measures so that Kenya's democratic gains can be able to be achieved.
Let's shift focus and focus on politics within the coast region. Already a section of MPs from ODM have actually said they will most likely be supporting JAP in the next coming elections, and of course calls of unity among coast leaders to speak with one voice. Do you think that is possible? That
You see, the coastal region has one thing that is different from all the other regions. All the other regions, and probably just Nairobi would be different from the coastal region. The other regions are all homogeneous. That means you have a people that speak the same language, a people who a majority of them are the same tribe, a people who a majority of them belong to the same religion. When you come to the coastal area, we have so many tribes. And amongst those tribes that are within the coastal area, so many of us different, we speak different languages. So trying to say that you're going to get one person who this is the person is really not going to be as easy as it seems. However, we should never look at our challenges and say that they're literally challenges as such, but we should look at these and say that we're turning them into opportunities, and the opportunity is to show Kenyans that this is the way democracy should be.
All right, let's now focus on a more, to get to really meet you as, the Member of Parliament from Vita. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, being the son of the late Shariff Nassir, a very influential politician and government minister in Moi's regime. How was it for you growing up?
My father was pretty strict on all of us, but strict in the sense that, and I always say this, I probably have been blessed to have one of the best fathers that any human being could ever be able to have. I have never ever recalled ever in my life my father lifting his hand on me, but whatever he talked always sank to such levels deep in me, to the extent that they would always until today they always stick to me. And many a times I look at the challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis, and I try and put myself and I see what would he have done if he was in this particular position, and that takes me through whatever it is that I do on a day-to-day basis. He was a gem of a person. Since he passed away till today, I have never met, and I know this sounds a bit magnified, but since the day he passed away till today, I have not met a person who has not told me one or two things about my father, and that is on a daily basis. So the impact that he had on people was very, very large.
Is that why you wanted to join politics? How did you end up, in politics?
My interest in politics was way back when I was in school, and I studied in a national school, and we had newspapers in the school. In the school library, we had newspapers.
Which school did you go to?
I was in Lenana School. And I remember that the school library had newspapers, and what they would do is they would pin them up, a certain paper, they would pin it up, and then they would take the same paper, they would turn it and pin it on the other side. So if you wanted to read a newspaper, you'd had to move across the whole wall to be able to read. I got to learn quite a bit, and I was involved. We used to have very, very deep discussions with my late father. When I finished school, and I told him I want to get into to do political science, and I remember his words were that there's no need for you to waste your time. If you want to do political science, there's no need for me to take you to campus. All you have to do is just follow me on a day-to-day, and you'll be able to learn much more than what the professors are going to be able to teach you. Eventually, I did not do political science. I tried my hand in aviation. Then in the middle of aviation, I started doing a bit of businesses, I ended up being in aviation. Then in the middle of aviation, I started doing a bit of businesses, I ended up being where I am today.
If you're not the Member of Parliament from Vita, what do you think what career path would you be pursuing?
I was in media. I was in media prior. In fact, it was my entry into the media industry was the only one where I actually did it on my own without my late father, my colleague, and someone who had a lot of trust in me at that particular time. Without much ado, he just told me we can be able to do this, and we were able to put up quite a nice enterprise. And we came up with an FM station. We had a bit of print media, and well, that was all in the past. Then when I got into elective politics, I had to resign my position. it was never going to be able to run a private company on a day-to-day whilst you're also a people's servant.
Tell us about the Shariff Nassir Foundation. What is it that it does?
After the death of my late father, this was way back, even before I got elected into Parliament, there was the need. There was so many things that we would try and be able to do. Education has been our strong core in what we want to try and do, and we've been able to do quite a bit in terms of education, trying to help those who are less fortunate. One of the things that has been a huge success, and I'm happy as well that some of our colleagues have been able to follow suit, is our feeding program. Every single year, I think this is our 8th or 9th year that we've been doing the KCP feeding program. What we realized then was that children would go into an exam, then they'd had to go home for lunch, or if they didn't go home, they'd have to do the afternoon paper on an empty stomach. This idea was actually brought to me by what my late father used to do. He would take sufurias of rice. So what we did is we changed that notion, and we talked to nutritionists to try and come up with something that is going to be full of energy for the child to be able to sit the afternoon paper, and a lot of water and everything that the child would need to be able to perform.
So how do you get the funding to keep the foundation going? Where do you get the money?
Family. And friends as well, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful.
How
to the
sustainable
Almighty.
is that? How sustainable is that? I mean, relying on
family and friends.
Yes.
I think when we wanted to start doing this, I was asked the same question: how sustainable was it going to be?
Because people will not always be willing to give
exactly.
every time.
And I look at what we've been able to do over the years, and I say that this really has nothing to do with me being Abdulswamad Shariff Nassir, but this is really just the grace of God who's been able to make us pull through till where we are today.
All right, as we wind up the show, yesterday the government, took very decisive steps, changes at the port of Mombasa. Do you think this is going to help the fight against corruption, the changes that we saw yesterday?
What I would really love, I'd really love to see that is, you see, it's one thing just getting rid of someone and saying that they're corrupt. But what Kenyans want to see is that, yes, you're corrupt and we're charging you and we're locking you up. Otherwise, then every single person is going to go away with, everyone's going to go scot-free with billions stashed somewhere. So if someone is corrupt, then let that notion not be there that someone is being victimized or someone is being pointing finger is coming out. It is always important, and I'm not saying that the people who are at the helm of the port, my personal issues with those who were then at the helm of the port was issues to do with employment. Our youth need to be employed. I raised this matter in person to the management. I raised this matter in Parliament as well, that there's a need for our youth to be employed with all the problems that we're having and unemployment rates being at their highest. At least something that the people of Mombasa feel belongs to them should be able to give back to Mombasa. And with the management not having done that, I had my own issues. But then again, if they had been removed or disciplined for purposes of corruption, the charges be pressed.
So they should also be taken to court.
Exactly.
All right. We need to wind up the show, but 2017 is approaching. I mean, what should we expect from you in terms of politics? Will you still be contesting for Mvita? Yes,
I'm actually glad you're asking that, because there's been a lot of notion at the seat that I'll be contesting in. I still believe that I have quite a bit to be able to do for the constituents of Mvita. And I would like and I would love to maintain the position of being the Member of Parliament from Vita constituency. And yes, by 2022, I would like my political career to take a notch higher. And,
so what are you eyeing, for 2022? You seem to already have...
by 2022, I would definitely wish to go for the governor's seat. But for now, I still believe that there's quite a bit. You also have to remember this particular parliament is different from all the other parliaments. We came in with a new constitutional dispensation. We came in, we're not finishing our full 5-year tenure. We are going to be finishing in about 4 years and about 4 months is when we're going to be through. So there's that we have not been able to fully achieve what we had wanted to achieve. And I think the next 5 years will be able to get me there. To
get you there. All right, thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Unfortunately, we have to wind up the show, but we do appreciate you finding time to come to our studios and, of course, share with us.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, that is Vita Member of Parliament Abdulswamad Shariff Nassir, who is also the chairperson of the Shariff Nassir Foundation, just telling us a little bit about what he plans for 2017 and a little bit about the issues that, of course, are current for us as a country. We end the Engine Behind the Power show, but, of course, O'Brien Kimani is on the other side of the studio with the day's business.